In many ways, we are on the cusp of a new era of modding. We just learned that we're going to be getting not only more Phantom Liberty details, but also hands-on gameplay experiences with the first expansion in just a bit over a month's time. And when this update does finally ship for Cyberpunk 2077, I can almost guarantee it's going to basically break all of your mods. But like I mentioned, all of this is still months away. So in this video, what I want to do is help you create that perfect Cyberpunk. Show you some of the mods that are adding in some of the cut or abandoned features, as well as some comprehensive visual overhauls that are just going to make your game look even better. And with one mod in particular that I'm going to showcase to you in this video, I found it to be one of the most requested features ever with this game, and it's finally added in. So in this video, I can basically guarantee we're going to upgrade your Cyberpunk 2077, but what you may have not realized is I'm also going to upgrade your browser. That thanks to today's video sponsor, Opera GX. Opera GX is not going to be the web browser for everyone, but if you game, it is almost certainly for you. And I mean, hey, they literally just added mod support. There's a great quick access menu for mods right in the sidebar where you can enable and configure them, but head over to gx.store where there's a ton of mod options available already. With GX mods, you could download things like the Cyberdeck mod to instantly overhaul your browser. Your entire browser experience will change, featuring some familiar Cyberpunk glitch effects, an awesome background wallpaper, custom sounds when opening tabs or typing, and it even overhauls the theme of Discord. Because yeah, Opera GX has basically every major app built in on the sidebar. You can quickly go from web browsing to replying to Discord messages, putting your favorite album on Spotify, or even just obliterating your productivity with the TikTok integration. But Opera GX won't just improve your web browsing experience, it'll also keep you informed. GX Corner has all of the latest game deals, game news, and even an upcoming release calendar, which you can sort by platform. This is genuinely handy with keeping up to date with the mountain of information coming out of gaming lately. And it only gets even better because you're also able to see my newest 12 videos, and this will update as I upload new ones. But you're only getting that last feature if you download Opera GX for free right now using that special link in the video description. But the first mod we have to take a look at here is a recently released one with E3 visuals remastered. This mod's going to be an absolute game changer for many of you, as it was for me actually. You'll probably almost always be seeing this in the background of my videos from here on out. What this is going to be is a comprehensive lighting overhaul for Cyberpunk 2077. Although, compared to some of the other comprehensive lighting overhauls out there, this one's actually pretty unique, because unlike some of those other lighting overhauls, this isn't trying to solely mimic the style of the 2018 or 2019 gameplay demos alone, but instead it's really serving to be a combination of the best lighting demos we've seen from Cyberpunk over the years. So this lighting overhaul is really a combination of the 2018 gameplay demo, the 2019 gameplay demo, and then some of the 2020 Night City wires. And it even goes a bit further to overhaul some of the roads in Night City, which has a surprisingly large impact. So just right off the bat when talking about this one, it's a lighting mod. Here I've recorded some before and after comparison, so you can tell for yourself how good this looks, or really how good you may or may not think this looks. And for context, in all of these in the background, I do have the new path tracing feature turned on. One of the first differences I noticed with this mod is it'll make even the lighting from some of the actual street lights or interior lights just a bit softer overall. Night City feels almost a bit cooler compared to the stronger reds you'd have by default, but this really applies to the overall atmospheric lighting in Night City. As you'll also notice that some of the directed and even neon lights are going to pop far more here. One of the most obvious examples are with brake lights on vehicles. They're just going to be much more notable with this mod installed. And even the neon lights outside this bar in this scene, it feels like with the mod installed, they have way more of a presence in the scene overall. And I feel like this is actually a great mod to pair with path tracing if you're somebody who's already been using it. It's definitely a distinct difference compared to vanilla lighting in Cyberpunk 2077, but I think it looks a lot better. And this also brings us to the other component of this mod with the road overhaul. It's going to retexture the roads of Night City to be far more similar to the 2018 gameplay demo, giving the roads a more defined and lighter look overall that's going to match the cooler overall aesthetic that you can see across the game now. Although I could definitely see some of you sitting there like, okay, but who cares about a bunch of road changes? It's the lighting changes that really matter. After toying around with this mod for a while, I think the road changes make a much larger impact than you'd think. You look at roads in Night City pretty often during the gameplay. I mean, think about how often you're driving, and pretty much half of your screen while driving is going to be either your car or the road. Overall, mods like this are always going to be incredibly subjective, but for me, this is the best lighting overhaul available for Cyberpunk 2077 right now. I think it does a really good job at making certain parts of Night City pop a bit more while still maintaining its overall presence and really the themes it typically had even in the vanilla game. And if you want to get even a bit closer to E3 2018, you can also download the Quadra VTech E3 2018 edition. This is a near perfect recreation of the Quadra we saw during the E3 2018 gameplay demo. And although other mods have done this in the past, what is nice about this one is it hooks right into the virtual car dealer mod. So you can purchase this vehicle as an additional option in your garage. It's not going to be a replacer. Although you may also find yourself as somebody out there who is just sick and tired of all of this E3 2018 content, well then you're in luck, because a great combo mod to add on top of all of this is the E3 2019 HUD and the E3 2019 Deep Dive HUD. So yeah, this is kind of a weird one in that you actually probably should use both of these mods together, but as you can guess, what this will do is revamp and really comprehensively overhaul your HUD in Cyberpunk 2077 to be almost identical to that 2019 Deep Dive video. Right off the bat, things are going to be moved around here, which I know some people will hate. The minimap is now going to be in the bottom right corner and has a distinctly different look, but thanks to this movement, your current objectives and quest activities are now going to be much smaller and concentrated in the top right corner. The minimap change for me is kind of a wash. I don't necessarily hate it or like it. Doesn't really bother me one way or another, but the font and styling change for both the current objective and even the health bar, I think look way better with this mod installed. This HUD design almost feels more modern and sleek in a way, making the HUD overall a bit less intrusive, which is kind of ironic when you consider that this HUD is actually older and less modern than the vanilla HUD. But even beyond that, you'll find some other 2019 themed changes. The scanner is going to be a bit different, more inspired by that 2019 demo, and there's even going to be some new icons and a revamped cursor. For me, this is yet another improvement to the visuals overall, but of course, messing with your HUD, even more so than the lighting for a lot of people, is going to be subjective. And although that's fun, that's cool, we're changing up the visuals of Night City, how about some actual content being restored? One of the big discoveries after the release of Cyberpunk 2077 was that a ton of clearly planned areas ended up getting boarded up and cut from the game. While Mega Buildings Expanded and Enhanced will address that somewhat by implementing additional sections and even some new props and details in several of the Mega Buildings in-game. So for Mega Buildings 6, 8, and 10, you'll find new things like some new apartments that you'll be able to purchase and use for yourself, additional explorable and functional areas, but also just a lot more activity. There's new props that can be used by NPCs and just NPCs walking around like they're actually living there. I would argue it's a relatively minor mod in practice, but actually does a lot of heavy lifting on the immersion front. I think it's a great one to keep in the background. Although, do you know what else CD Projekt Red ended up cutting from the game? One of the most iconic and prominently shown clothing pieces from the 2018 demo, which was this tank top. Now, obviously, as you're watching this video, modders have added this back in with the E3 2018 muscle tank top mod. It's a relatively minor one, but it does restore the tank top that many people have been longing for. In a similar vein, we also have the original samurai jacket. This mod will restore the vintage samurai jacket back to how it looked in the 2018 demo, which did have several changes compared to the release version of the game. Although, funny enough, Cyberpunk 2077 does have one feature that is in the release version of the game, but was actually removed with the later day one patch. Item inspecting was a planned and lightly showcased feature, and if you have the disc version of Cyberpunk 2077 and launch that without connecting to the internet, item inspection is actually in the game, but the second you download the day one patch, it'll be removed from the game. At least it will be unless you download this mod. It's a pretty simple mod. It allows you to inspect different items in your inventory, mostly clothing and weapons. You get a better look at them on your character, or even just what those weapons look like, and it can be genuinely handy for getting a better look at some of the most iconic items in the game, but otherwise is a pretty simple one. Although one of the other pretty odd design decisions CD Projekt Red made with Cyberpunk 2077 is some things are just not craftable. Now for some items this is going to be a part of cut content, but for some other items they were just never implemented as craftable things. And for that reason, a ton of items in game are incredibly rare just because you could never craft them. But restored crafting specs will fix that. So now, for example, you can simply roll up to the weapon vendor in Japantown and purchase the Neon Arrow crafting spec, which this weapon mod, if you didn't know, is going to reduce the reload time by a certain percentage. If you're playing Cyberpunk and you're like, what? I've never even heard of that mod. That's because it's really rare. There's only like 3 places it could actually spawn in Night City, but now with this mod, it actually becomes usable and you could properly stack them on items. It doesn't stop there though. This will implement several other mods that bizarrely had their crafting specs cut from the game, and also a bunch of weapons. One of the really nice parts about this mod overall is it'll make almost every weapon in Night City craftable. You'll be able to find crafting specs ranging from uncommon to legendary, where previously there were a bunch of weapons that you could just never make a craftable version of just because. So this update will not only add all of the vanilla weapons, but also some of the other ones implemented by the later free DLCs. And in general, it's honestly going to be a huge buff to the crafting playstyle, but also just a very natural change to the game. And since you're now able to craft most weapons, you'll also probably want to craft some attachments. Attachment Craft will unlock the ability for you to craft most of the scopes and muzzle attachments in Night City, which you definitely should do because some of these can create some incredibly powerful combinations, including the super overpowered Ricochet build that you should not sleep on. But one of the other pretty recent mods to come out from the same mod author is set bonuses. Similar to how it works in other games, now in Cyberpunk 2077, if you wear a bunch of apparel items all from a certain set, you'll actually get a bonus if you have enough of them equipped. So for example, if you have enough of the Netrunner clothing, you'll actually get bonuses to your netrunning ability. You can have faster quick hack cooldowns or even more damage dealt with quick hacks. This is going to apply to a variety of the sets in game right now, and there's actually more being added with future updates to this mod, and it's nicely implemented. So even if you only have a couple of pieces equipped, you'll actually get one bonus, and you'll get more bonuses the more of the set you have on. A nice mod overall that actually starts to reward some of the outfit cohesion that a lot of people were already taking advantage of. But speaking of things you've probably always wanted in Night City, how about getting to keep those stolen cars? Claimed Vehicles is a pretty cool mod that will let you steal and add vehicles to your garage. So instead of the only vehicles in your garage being purchasable ones, things you had to actually spend money on, now you'll be able to actually steal them and keep them forever. This is integrated in a pretty cool way in that there are multiple methods of thievery. If you just force someone out of a car on the street as they're driving, you'll get to keep that car. But alternatively, if you find a locked car on the side of the road, things are going to be a bit different. If you want to successfully steal that, you're probably going to need a certain perk. One example is the Master Hacker perk, as you're able to then hack into the car and keep it for your garage. And honestly, overall, I just find this to be a relatively fun feature. Like, yeah, it does definitely break balance somewhat in that you're able to very early on into the game get some of the best cars in the game, but I feel like even just downloading something like the car modification shop will immediately change that, because then you'll have to buy upgrades to make whatever you want fast. But the other major benefit of this mod is being able to access basically every vehicle style. Even though when you actually go to call a car from your garage, it'll sometimes show up as the default style in the icon, as the car actually shows up, it'll be almost identical to the appearance of the one you stole, meaning that you'll be able to gain access to a bunch of cars that you typically couldn't have in your garage now, sometimes just being different paint jobs and other times actually being fundamentally different cars you wouldn't typically be able to have in the vanilla game. It's a really cool mod that I think is really well implemented into the game, giving you a variety of ways to expand your garage. But if you're looking to enhance Cyberpunk 2077 even further, check out this video, where I go over some of the pretty insane new features being added in by mods, not only adding in cut content.